Welcome to the Clear-Sighted Career Online Learning Series, brought to you by the University of Notre Dame's Alumni Association. My name is Sharon Kane, and I serve as Director of Professional and Academic Programs. Welcome to this webinar titled, Design Thinking Your Life. We've all heard that famous quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, "Life is a journey, not a destination." It's in that spirit that today we're going to introduce you to some design thinking principles that are incorporated into a life journey mapping framework. And this framework can be so helpful in helping us achieve our aims of a life well lived and a meaningful career. So come along with us and think of this as your guided tour towards this tool. And know that it's for individuals who are interested in being a bit more intentional and creative in mapping out their life's journey. And to do it with your values, your goals, your passions, and your legacy in mind. I'm delighted to introduce our expert today, Professor Wendy Angst, who is an associate teaching professor in the top-rated Mendoza College of Business. Wendy teaches both our graduate and undergraduate business students in a variety of topics, including design thinking, innovation, strategy, as well as consulting, social media, entrepreneurism, and problem solving. Prior to joining the university in 2010, Professor Angst was in the healthcare industry, where she built and launched a healthcare startup and brought it from the angel funding to the acquisition stage. So please join me in welcoming Professor Wendy Angst. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us at the Clear-Sighted and sharing your expertise.
All right, thank you, Sharon. I'm delighted to be with you all here today and very excited to have the opportunity to share with you some of my passions around design thinking and being mindful and intentional about the life journey that we're all on. So, as I was preparing for this talk, I was thinking about a time as a child driving to Florida with my parents, where my father was taking that opportunity to rest his eyes and had conceded control of the directions to me. So at this time, we used maps, which we don't quite use as much anymore, but I remember thinking about how exciting it was, all of the different directions and possibilities that you could take to reach our final destination, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, where my grandparents lived. We could have taken one of the small black roads and went close to the ocean, or we could have veered off in other directions. Pretty much we stayed to the larger red roads on our path, but it was really exciting to think about all of the possibilities and directions you could take to reach that destination. Fast forward to today, and I'm sure many of you, like I do, tend to use Google Maps, where you simply speak into your phone and Google presents you with this very straightforward map of where you're going, how to get there, how long it's going to take, where attractions are along the way, and a whole host of options of things you might consider on your ultimate destination of where you're going. So ultimately, when you think about this in the context of your own life, we all have this destination that we're working towards. We may not know exactly what that destination and journey would look like, but we know some semblance of ultimately where we would like to head. And hopefully we're looking straight out that dashboard mirror rather than the rear view mirror when we think about what that direction would be. And we know that ultimately we all want to have this full and meaningful life, that we feel appreciated in meaningful work that we're doing in this world, that we have meaningful relationships with our loved ones, with our family and our friends, and that we have that time to spiritually center ourselves and be true to what our own purpose is that God is calling us to do. But ultimately, there are a lot of different paths that each of us can take to get there. And when you think about how you're ultimately going to achieve that, a lot of times we can get so lost in the detail and kind of accomplishing things and getting the things done day to day that we lose track of what the overall journey would be and ultimately where we're headed. So any road will get you there if you don't know where you're going, is one of my favorite quotes from Lewis Carroll. So where are we going? That's what we're going to spend some time thinking of today. So when you think about journeys, I can't help but bring forward the two passions that I have and where I teach here at Notre Dame. And one is really around thinking about business strategies and the directions that businesses are taking. And then the other is around being innovative and thoughtful in how you accomplish those strategies. So the questions that businesses typically begin with is, how do I know if I'm doing the right things? How do we continue to grow as a business and reach our potential? Where are there problems and opportunities with our business and with the emerging market, or things that we can't see that haven't happened yet? And how do we know what a good risk is to take? And then really importantly, where do we focus our precious resources? We all have finite money resources as an organization and finite people resources. So when businesses think about this, they bring this forward into their mission. And the mission is what clearly helps define for a business where they're headed, what they're about, and helps kind of bring their whole team together, that everyone is thinking and focusing around the same things. So if you look at Patagonia's mission statement, build the best product, cause no necessary harm, use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So that's very clear. We know what Patagonia is about, and we know what that means when we buy their products. And if you work for Patagonia, and I have a lot of students here at Notre Dame that would love to work for Patagonia because of this mission, it gives you a clear sense about what you're focusing on. Similarly with Honest Tea. So Honest Tea seeks to create and promote great tasting, healthier organic beverages. We strive to grow our business with the same honesty and integrity we use to craft our products with sustainability and great taste for all. Or another one, IKEA. So a vision to create a better everyday life for the many people. Our business idea supports the vision by offering a wide range of well-designed functional home furnishing products at prices so low that as many people as possible be able to afford them. So these mission statements really help answer a lot and help guide the direction that this company and the individuals that make up this company are headed. And as Father Hesburgh is quoted as saying, the very essence of leadership is that you have to have a vision. You can't blow an uncertain trumpet. So what does that mean for our own lives? Well, similarly, we're all faced with similar questions to the executive that we viewed just a moment ago. Where are there problems and opportunities happening in my life? What's next for me? How do I continue to grow and realize my potential? How do I know I'm doing the right things? How do I know what is a good risk for me to take? And importantly, where do I focus my precious resources? For everything we decide to do, we know we make trade-offs and we decide that there's things that we can't do. So similarly, like a business, it's important to think about our own mission statement. Now, a few mission statements that I wanted to share with you from some well-known professionals out in the world. Denise Morrison, to serve as a leader, live a balanced life, and apply ethical principles to make a significant difference. Joel Manby, CEO of Hershon Family Entertainment. He defines personal success as being consistent to his own personal mission statement, to love God and love others. And two others I'd like to share with you. Oprah Winfrey, to be a teacher and to be known for inspiring my students to be more than they thought they could be. And Sir Richard Branson, to have fun in my journey through life and learn from my mistakes. So those are very powerful mission statements that these individuals use to guide the direction that they're taking in their life. So I'd like for us to spend a few minutes to record our mission. So I have some questions I'm going to walk you through, and then these resources will be available from the Clearsighted website so that you can spend some more time reflecting on them. So point number one, who do you admire? So if you think about people that you admire and the qualities and attributes about them that you admire, spend some time jotting those down. So an example might be that my grandmother always made me feel, and made others feel special based on how much time she was willing to invest in them. So those are some attributes about my grandmother that were important to me that I like to bring forward into my own life. Secondly, what legacy will you live? So a lot of times we think about our work resume on a daily basis and building up the skills and the things that we've accomplished. But if you think about this in terms of what your eulogy resume would look like, what legacy would you like to live and how would you like to be remembered? What would you like for your family members to say about you, for your friends to say, for your community, your employer, your spirituality? What about Notre Dame? So what legacy will you leave behind? So an example here, she was a lifelong learner who always sought to expand her skills and challenge herself. And the third area I'd like for you to reflect on as you think about your mission is, what do you actually love to do? What do you find that when you're doing, you lose track of time and you just enjoy it so much that before you know it, a whole afternoon could have went by? So what talents do you possess that are more important to you? And just what are you good at? So again, sharing from my own experience, I love helping students recognize their potential, and I also love going on adventures. So all of these things come together to help you think and craft what your mission statement would be. And it's important to recognize that this is not a very quick exercise. This is something that you should reflect on and spend time on revisiting over the weeks and months ahead until you find something that really fits you well. So ask yourself, what is your purpose? What are you doing to grow towards your potential? What are you doing to invest in others? And then very importantly, are you leading your own path or following in someone else's path? So ultimately, when you think about your strengths, your passion, and what your cause is, what your purpose is in this world, that's ultimately where you'll arrive at your mission. So some examples of mission statements that I'd like to share with you are: my mission is to act as an instrument of positive change in my family, my work, and my community. I will utilize all of the talents that God has given me and will participate in all aspects of my life with energy, purpose, and gratitude. And I will utilize my talents in strategy and administration to ensure that my home is loving and calm, my workplace is productive and positive, and my community is responsive and growing. Through this focus, I will give more than I take and will provide a positive model for my children. There's a couple others here that I won't read with you now, but again, I encourage you to revisit them for reference, as they're powerful mission statements just to think about and reflect upon. And my own personal mission statement that I'd like to share with you is the grounding principle to be an example of how to live a full and meaningful life. And then my highest purpose is to always be courageous and kind and loving, and to do things today that will matter tomorrow. So whatever you value, be committed to it and let nothing distract you from this goal. The uncommitted life, like Plato's unexamined life, is not worth living. So another great quote from one of our Notre Dame leaders. So now that we've recorded our mission statement, we have a clear sense of where we're headed. But just like having a plan of where we're going and thinking again about that roadmap, there's a lot of options to get there and a lot of ways that we could accomplish that journey. So thinking about this old adage of what gets measured gets done. So we're going to shift our attention now to thinking about the goals that we can set to help us make sure that we're accomplishing this important destination and mission that we've set for ourselves. So in 1979, a Harvard MBA program conducted a study, and the professor asked the students, how many of you have clear and written goals for your future? And the results were surprising. 84% of those that responded said they had no goals, and 13% did have goals but did not have them written down. And 3% did have their goals and have them written down. I do find that this is pretty reflective of the classroom today. Maybe a few more have goals, but very few actually take the time to write their goals down. What's so great about this study is that 10 years later, when this professor revisited and interviewed these students, what they found is that the 13% of the class who had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals. And what's really exciting to look at is the 3% who had clear written goals were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. So as I have my students go through the process of recording their goals, I always remind them that I get a cut for any goals that come true and cause them to earn 10% of their, or 10 times as much in their income over time. So just why could that be? Why would it be that your goals would lead to such a prominent increase in income? Well, a lot of people believe that just by having them written down helps you just remember your purpose and your intention of what you're following. So your dreams determine your goals map out your actions, and your actions create results, and those results are what bring you to success. So if you think about the different areas of our life where we may want to consider goals, I like to think of it in 6 different fundamental buckets. So the first being family and friendship. What are some goals that really reflect your time with your family and your time as a friend? What are goals around your mind, your body, your spirituality, just the healthy life that you'd like to live? Your life's work, how you invest your time and your resources. What experiences would you like to have throughout your life? What creative endeavors would you like to be sure to explore? And then certainly your financial health. So goals are a dream with a deadline. So thinking about this, I encourage you to consider your goals in 2 different buckets. The first being your large kind of hairy, audacious goals, your BHAG goals is what we call them. And these are goals that you're thinking about that are goals that are maybe 10 to 30 years out, so a longer term goal. And these are clearly where we would maybe think about the goal in terms of a dream. So I have a dream to be a grandmother someday who spends time with her grandkids. Certainly there's a lot of parts of that goal that I can't control, but I do have children and hopefully headed in the right path there, that they find that as in their own path. And then to have specific measurable goals that are helping you achieve those big audacious goals. So these would be SMART goals: specific, measurable, action-oriented, and time-related. So these shorter goals are things that are just kind of the stepping stone as you work your way towards the larger visionary goals that you've set for yourself. So let's think about how to write some goals. So some questions to consider when you think about writing your goals are, what is your dream job? So if you could be doing anything in the world, what would you choose to do? Secondly, what if that job didn't exist? Then what? Then what might your path look like? And what would you do if money or failure were no object? If the world was your oyster, so to speak? Where's the one place you've always wanted to travel to? What new skill would you love to learn if you only had the time and the ability to do it? And if you could live anywhere in the world and it couldn't be home, where would you live? So these are just some fun questions to start thinking about some different dreams and ways to think about a potential future. So just as a bit of motivation, or I guess for me it's always aspirational or inspirational to think about 5 years from now what things could look like. But in just under 5 years, Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. In less than 5 years, Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, and 5 other immortal plays. In 1961, Julia Child graduated from cooking school with a quirky idea for a TV show. And 4 years later, she won an Emmy for America's favorite TV chef. At age 30, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos was living in a 500 square foot apartment. 5 years later, his net worth was $10 billion. Today, it's more like $59 billion, give or take. Tim and Nina Zagat were corporate lawyers when they began printing restaurant guides. And at age 51, they left the work world to work full-time on their guides. And in 2011, Google bought Zagat for $51 million. And Grandma Moses, one of the biggest names in American folk art. And she didn't even pick up a brush until she was well into her 80s. So some very inspirational goals to think about as you take time reflecting on your goals that help support your overall mission of where you're headed in your life. So life's a journey. Take your map, bringing this back to thinking about the journey that we're all on in our life's journey. Once we have those goals and we have our mission of where we're headed, the destination that we'd like to go, it's really helpful to bring these together into one visual to think about the destination that you have. Now, again, this doesn't mean that you are on that large red line highway, barreling down and you don't have time for the detours. It means that you're putting your dreams in the parking place and you have a place where you can recognize, you can see them, know that you're working towards them, but also recognize that things change, that your life changed, the people in your life change, and that your life journey tends to evolve, and those goals should evolve right along with you. So this is a journey map that I began using about 15 years ago and have continued to evolve over time. And what this map does is it orients kind of the different dimensions of your life with 3 lines, and they're all balanced across the decades. So you see the numbers across the bottom of the map. Those are decades of your life. And then the next line up is talking about your own skills and personal development of experiences you'd like to have and new skills you'd like to learn. The middle line is looking at your own professional direction. How are you measuring your life as well? How are you measuring your life in terms of your own work that you're doing in this world, both in terms of your title and the attributes of what that work looks like? And then the top line would be your life's journey around your own personal experiences with your family and just with your own spirituality and development. So this reflects the 6 different dimensions that we talked about earlier. And hopefully, as you thought about the goals for each of these dimensions, you're beginning to see where these goals might fit within the timeline around different decades of your life's journey. So as I mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time, so I wanted to share with you what the evolution of my own life journey map looked like. So this is from 2002, and this was kind of the best of PowerPoint, at least with my ability back in the day. But you can see I had some goals outlined. It's by the decades of my life, and I was much heavier on the 30s to 40s because 30s and 40s seemed pretty far off to me at that point. And I thought maybe by the time I'm in my mid-30s, I would have kids, I would do some public speaking, I'd have my dream home, a lot of, great idealistic goals. And important to note, the goals on the top line are goals that you wouldn't necessarily share with anyone except your loved ones or your closest friends. So I'm considering all of you watching this video right now my closest friends. But they're things that are more personal. The bottom two lines are things that people tend to kind of talk about or define themselves by when you're out meeting people for the first time, places you've traveled, or what your title or role is at work or with different boards that you're serving on. Fast forward 6 years past 2002, and this is how my life journey map evolved. So you'll notice as I continue to build this out, the way that I have developed mine is that the blue items are things that I completed. The yellow items are things that were still out there in my journey map. So what I love to highlight with this one is you can see the long line that I have right at my 40s. I'm now in my 40s, but it indicated that I would take that year to step out of my life and just reflect on my family and not worry as much about my career from the busy time that I had with my past startup life. And then I thought maybe after that I would spend some time just volunteering or become a professor and just find ways that I could give back in a meaningful way once I kind of got my family a little bit more established. And so what happened over time is that I had the good fortune of becoming friends with our former dean of the business school, Dean Carolyn Wu, who presented me with an opportunity to begin teaching. So my life journey map shifted around quite a bit, and I ended up not taking that year off in my 40s, but landing my dream job much sooner than that, which was becoming a professor in the business school at Notre Dame. So here's my life journey map today, how this evolves over time. And so now the information in black is the information that's been accomplished, and then the information in the subtle blue is things that are still out there that are hopefully to be realized at some point, or to come off, or to evolve and change and reshape in a certain way. And I've also added the age of my children when they will be 13, and from what I understand, once my children reach 13, they will have less interest in traveling with me on places that I like to go for vacation. So I thought that's important to note relative to the trips I'd like to take as a family. And then also when my kids head off to college. And once my kids go to college, that changes, again, the type of work and the amount of hours I'm willing to do, and then the places that I would be willing to travel. So just being mindful of those different stakeholders in your life and how that impacts what your life journey is. So another version of this I wanted to share with you that brings more clearly the vision and mission statement that you have created for yourself into being. This is a version of the life chart that I have worked with a close friend and colleague on that we use for discernment for first-year students here at Notre Dame, where we specifically called out the 6 different lines in conjunction with the 6 different dimensions of life and mapped those out in conjunction with one another. And you can see even the metrics of how this is measured across the bottom of the map, instead of being by just decades, by the time you're 25, by the time you're 35, by the time you're 45, it just made it a little bit easier, we felt, for the students to think about. And then having my highest purpose listed at the top of my map and my grounding principle listed at the bottom. So we've included both maps here for you to use so you can see which fits your own needs better. And certainly the time frame is completely adjustable. Hopefully some of you are working on your goals of thinking about what you're going to be doing for your 100th birthday. So hopefully you can extend that map out to reach all of those life's milestones. So what do you do now once you've thought about what that destination is through your mission setting? You've thought about some big goals and some dreams that you want to put on that map and some concrete ways that you're going to measure and reach for those dreams. And we've mapped those out. And now we think about how we sustainably implement that map over time. So some of the techniques that I've used is to make sure that you think about that journey with your full self in mind. We all know that at different times in life, there's areas of our lives and the way that we're focusing our time that can be taking up more than at other times. So just being mindful of that and recognizing that it's not just a straight path and you're heading on and you're accomplishing all of your family and your career and your personal development goals equally. Sometimes things have to take a backseat. And what's great about having them on the map is that you're not giving up on them. You're just kind of putting them in that parking place so when you have more time to get to them, or how to prioritize your time so you can find time to get to them. Secondly, to be mindful of those other stakeholders. So as I highlighted with my map, being mindful of the age that my children will be at different times, but also being mindful about the age that your parents will be and when that may take more time, where you want to be able to help care for your parents, or different people in your life, or where you want to be living at that time so that you're closer to your parents. So being mindful of those other stakeholders. Identify a person to share your plan with. So for me, my college roommate and I had our birthdays about 10 days apart. So even to this day, we tend to catch up around that time, and we share our plans with each other. And it gives you an opportunity to just help keep each other honest and check in and be supportive around the different dreams that we each have, and recognize when those dreams maybe don't belong on your journey map anymore. Set a date to review your plan and keep it. So for me, that date is my birthday. So every year on my birthday, you will find me at a coffee shop somewhere going through and updating my journey map and taking some things off and moving some things around. But it's really important to just give yourself that time to reflect and make sure that you're updating this. Again, it's meant to be a guide, not a prescriptive path. And then keep your plan accessible. So for me, I keep my plan in a folder right next to me on my desk, and then throughout the year, when I think of things or hear about workshops that I'm interested in, I jot it down on my journey map. So I have a place, again, that parking place where I can keep these items for the future that I want to make sure that I revisit at some point. So recently, when I had an opportunity to do this exercise with some students in my class, one of the students mentioned that they were planning on hiking the El Camino Trail. So I borrowed that, and now I've added that to my journey map. So just keeping that front and center so you can continue to evolve that as you go. So resources that I would encourage you, if you have a passion in this field, to keep in mind would be Your Roadmap for Success by John C. Maxwell. I did have a quote incorporated from this text in the lecture that we talked through today. But this book is a really helpful daily guide to go through thinking about how you define success, and just kind of stretching and encouraging people to think about the success of your life more in the meaning and the gifts that you give to others, and rather in the financial metrics that a lot of us tend to default to when we think about what success means. Another one is Designing Your Life, and this is a new book out from some professors at Stanford University that also teach courses in design thinking and have created a very well-received design thinking course around this concept around mapping the journeys of your life. And the third one, which is just probably my personal favorite book of all time, but this is by Clayton Christensen, who's a Mormon and a professor at Harvard, and he is also known as the father of disruptive innovation, so very brilliant man. But he wrote this text, and I wanted to share with you this excerpt. So over the years, I've watched the fates of my Harvard Business School classmates from 1979 unfold. I've seen more and more of them come to reunions unhappy, divorced, and alienated from their children. I can guarantee you that not a single one of them graduated with the deliberate strategy of getting divorced and raising children who have become estranged from them. And yet a shocking number of them implemented that strategy. The reason? They didn't keep the purpose of their lives front and center as they decided how to spend their time, talents, and energy. So I'll leave you with this quote. When you reach the end of your life, do you want to be one of the people who are glad they did, or one of the people who wish they had? Start doing the things today that will matter tomorrow. Don't leave this world without giving it your all. The best inheritance you can leave your kids is an example of how to live a full and meaningful life. Live your life so that your children can tell their children that you not only stood for something wonderful, you acted on it. And actually, one more quote that's just important, bringing back our journey and this concept of roads, is from Pope Francis. So this is important. To get to know people, listen, expand the circle of ideas. The world is crisscrossed by roads that come closer together and move apart. But the important thing is that they lead towards the good.
So Wendy, thank you very much for giving us that guide that was a wonderful blend of the practical with the inspirational. I think so many of us are hungry for that. So thank you.
No, thank you.
So I also think it's true that more and more people are really hungry for a purposeful, meaningful, well-lived life. And I love the approach that the life journey mapping takes, right? Those 6 dimensions. So a question for you, you're working with students, they're on the front end, early in their life, the front end of their career. But can you share with those of us who are well into our career, into our life, is it ever too late? Is this always a meaningful tool for us to use?
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully the quote from Grandma Moses helped underscore that. But it is always important to just think about the direction that we're headed. And, you know, I think it's really interesting if you think about just the life journey that we're all on. I've heard other experts talk about the fact that the first stage of your life is really about the earning and the learning, right? You spend a lot of time learning and getting to that stage where you have your career and you're acquiring assets and you're getting your first home and you're putting money in the bank. And then the second half of your life, a lot of times that's the time where you have learned a lot and you have so much knowledge to give. And it's a time where you can be really purposeful and intentional in how you give back with that knowledge.
Right, that notion of returning at that point, whether that's knowledge, wisdom, financial support, etc. So this is a tool for all of us in all of our lives. You shared that you take the event of your birthday, and that's the time where you sit back and reflect on your map. So in terms of recommended frequency, that seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, and I would say what's nice about that is, one time a year at least, that you're kind of going in and you're doing some of the heavy lifting of, erasing and highlighting the things that you've accomplished over time. But I really do keep it right next to my desk and just jot things on throughout the year. So there's different things you hear about or different opportunities that kind of are constantly being brought our way. So it's just good to have a place to jot those down, because you can certainly lose track of different things or forget about great places that you've heard about that friends have traveled. So yeah, just a good way to just keep it front and center.
That makes sense to me, and I also think it's liberating because you give us freedom that things may enter, things may exit our map, and that's to be expected. And I think we know that people are living longer. You referenced the 100th decade, turning 100, and people are working longer. Yeah. So this kind of map that can be revisited on an annual basis that incorporates both the kind of practical, the short term, as well as maybe more inspirational and longer term aspirations that we as human beings often have. What a wonderful tool. And thank you again for sharing the framework.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
So Wendy, I want to ask, for those of us who feel that our time is very limited, we might be feeling overwhelmed but excited and interested in this tool that you've shared, how do we best get started?
Well, that's a really great question. So it's always easy to jot down some of the accomplishments that you've already had in life, and think about those, almost as like the landmarks on your journey. So the landmarks of things that you've done. And then we can all, I'm sure, very easily think about, well, gosh, by the time that I am in my later years or I've retired, what is it about your life? What does that look like then? And just starting with some big landmarks you can put out there. But we've all heard that adage, what can be done anytime, it's done no time. So just giving ourselves that sense of, when is it important? When will our lives change because our kids will go to college or I will no longer be working? And just realizing that we don't need to save it all for later. Just being mindful around the fact that that time will go by whether or not we've accomplished or set out to do what we wanted to do in the first place. So time just keeps moving on. So what are those important things that just fill your soul, that you feel called to do, that you can identify for those areas of your life? And maybe just start with one. Start with one for each aspect of your life and just think, how can I be more intentional about living my life's purpose?
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for giving us not only the concept, but the encouragement and the tool to actually make it actionable. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I want to thank all of you for participating in this webinar on Design Thinking Your Life, and also want to encourage our alumni to access our career and professional services that are available. Firstly, the my.nd.edu career website has services, programs, tools, and other resources for Notre Dame alumni. Additionally, we have our career advisor who can be contacted at career@alumni.nd.edu. Thank you.